In a world where people's beliefs can grant you supernatural powers and godlike abilities, who will you pray for to save you during a disaster? Do you pray to God or one of the heroes that were granted these abilities? Lucky Cyan, or Cyan for short, must have prayed for someone to save her and all the people in the plane with her when they were falling from the sky. They all must have prayed for the heroes to rescue them, since they were the closest to godlike beings in their world. But sadly, no one came and none of them survived the crash except for the 3-year-old little girl Cyan. People say she was lucky that she survived, but is she truly lucky when the plane crashed in the first place? The journalist Liu Zhen thought the same thing when he found her crying under the rubble of an airplane, unharmed but most likely traumatized. He smuggled her away from the destruction and put her in the custody of his friend who owned an orphanage. The name of this friend of his wasn't revealed yet, so I'm just going to call him the Dean. Liu Zhen entrusted the little girl to his friend because he thought that the plane crash was suspicious. With the amount of active heroes around the world, let alone their city, why is it that there was no one who stopped that disaster from happening? Where were the heroes? Where were their saviors? Is it possible that the agencies prevented the heroes from helping? Were they busy doing something else that's far more dangerous? What about heroes who were not signed under any agency at all? We know that they exist since X is a freelancer who does his own thing. There are hundreds of heroes out there. How is it that not a single one of them tried to help? It's not like it wouldn't be beneficial for them either. These small-time heroes could rise in rank if they helped out. I understand if their powers were like that of Enlighter, who was not a fighter, because it would have been impossible for them to do anything. But still, what were the other heroes doing? Liu Zhen thinks that this was all too suspicious, and that whoever was behind the crash would target Cyan. That was the reason why he put her in the care of his friend instead of taking her in himself. He didn't know that his friend will start a cult around her in the future. Before he brought Cyan to the orphanage, he resigned from his job after an argument with his boss. He thought the article he wrote was slanderous towards the heroes since it was questioning where they were. It was going to tank their trust values and an even worse disaster could happen. This donghua will never let us forget how terrifying the public's beliefs are. Because what do you mean an even worse disaster could happen should the heroes' trust values fall? In front of the journalist agency Focus, a man was spreading flyers and yelling for people to embrace fear. He was saying that the reporters were hiding the truth. Liu Zhen asked him what he meant by embrace fear, and the guy asked him if he knew about the Aether Laboratory. On a side note, wouldn't it be funny if this guy spreading the flyers became Enlighter in the future? We don't really know how old he is, but this scene takes place in 23 AC, 18 years before Lin Ling's arc. This man looks to be in his late 20s, and Enlighter could be in his 30s in the future. Who knows? It'll be funny if this was true. It'll also be kind of ironic since he said to embrace fear, and that's what he did to become God's Eye. While this is the first time Aether Laboratory was mentioned by name in the show, we do have hints about what it could be that were scattered around the earlier episodes and trailer. They could be the ones responsible for creating Ghostblade, and I have a feeling that they're going to be featured more in his episodes. They could also be the ones who made Magic Shadows, Isol's nemesis that Fearman accidentally killed. But who knows if this could be true. Those are just theories until we know more about the Aether Laboratory, but I wouldn't put it past them to have created Lucky Cyan too. Her powers are incredibly strong for her age. They could have tested out if her luck would spread to the whole plane and save everyone, or if it would only save her, or if she would perish like everyone else. But like I said, these are theories for now. The longer Cyan stayed in the orphanage, the more people came to realize how lucky she was, and the dean decided to deify her by turning her into the school's sacred idol. He pretty much controlled her life at this point. She had no friends to speak of because all the children were taught to be respectful in her presence. She led a lonely life until she met him, her dear friend Luo. He was said to be unlucky despite only having 10 believers. He showed her that despite her being lucky, there are still going to be rainy days. I have been wondering how Lucky Cyan's powers worked for a while, and I have a theory that it might be a choice-based power. Luck will always be on her side when it comes to her choice. As we saw in this episode, she chose which place to mark on the map for her caretaker. She chose which stocks to buy for a man and which man someone should marry. She was always presented with a choice. A 3-year-old child on a crashing plane would no doubt choose to survive, don't you think? But because she was only 3, it probably never occurred to her that she could save the others too. Fear would have taken over her by then, and she was only 3 years old. She was just a baby. That being said, imagine if Linling's parents were also in that plane and Linling was orphaned like Cyan. He would have been 3 years old like her since they're the same age. It could be possible that he stayed with his grandparents while his parents went on a business trip and his grandparents passed on shortly after. Would explain why nobody grieved Linling when he died and why he didn't think about his family when he was running around as nice. It was said that Luo was placed in several orphanages that eventually faced disasters. It could be that Linling was placed in one of those too. The caretaker, Mrs. Xiao, I'm not sure why they're calling her Miss Xiao in the subs when she clearly said that she has a husband, warned the dean about Luo and his bad luck. But the dean told her not to worry and treat all children equally. Such a sentence would usually sound very nice and inspiring, no? However, the way it was framed was threatening. I find this a little bit odd, how terrified she looked at him. Could it be that she knew the type of man he was? Because at the end of the episode, when Cyan and Luo were so close to freedom, we see exactly what kind of man the dean was. He was someone who wanted to be a hero, but for some reason couldn't do it despite having powers of his own. The fact that the Aether Laboratory was mentioned in this episode made me think that he has ties with them. Would it be that the orphanages are actually a place to choose which orphans to experiment on, and Cyan and Luo were both unknowing experiments from the laboratory? It was odd to begin with that Cyan didn't have her own name. Liu Zhen gave her the name Cyan, when a normal person would have asked her for her name when they first met. This could mean that Cyan didn't have a name in the first place, because she was an experiment by the Aether Laboratory. Isn't it odd that the boy who was unlucky happens to land at the same orphanage with the luckiest girl? There are people speculating that Luo will definitely die. He has so many death flags after all. And all I can say is, yes and no. Let me explain. In Lucky Cyan's trailer, we see a woman telling Cyan that Luo is dead as she watches her younger self leave with Luo towards the light. While I have no doubt that someone is going to die, I don't think it's going to be Luo. It's just too obvious, and I don't think Li Haolin will be happy if he can't shock us every episode. Luo might get hurt and people will tell Cyan that he's dead, which is why that woman in her trailer told her that. He might appear again in the future as a villain working for the Spotlight organization. Who knows? But I really don't think he's going to die. We also meet Queen for the first time in this episode. She's not a hero yet, but she just graduated and announced her goal to become X in the future at her graduation ceremony. We see her name on various awards and certificates in her house. Her real name is Liu Yuwei, and Liu Zhen, the reporter, is her father. There seems to be parallels between Queen and Lucky Cyan, just like how Linling and Yang Cheng parallel each other. Liu Yuwei wants to abolish the trust system and bring order to the world. This is probably why her hero name is Queen. Also, side note, it would be absolutely amazing if Queen and Linling fought during the tournament. After all, it's going to be the Queen versus the Commoner. Queen seems to be the overachiever type and is set on her goal. She's confident and does what she wants to reach that goal, and her father lets her do as she pleases. Meanwhile, Cyan has no control over her life. The dean controls her every move and every clothes she wears. She was trapped in a gilded cage that made her holy. I actually think that in this story arc, the person who will die is Liu Zhen, Queen's father. If you watch her trailer, you see that he was with her at the beginning, but at the end, as she became queen, the only person with her was a man who was probably the CEO of the OS. So, Luo will have a fake death while Liu Zhen will die for real in Queen's episodes. What do you guys think? Before we get to the analysis of the preview episode, let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Faye, and I'm a webcomic artist who makes analysis videos on the side. My webcomic is called Dreaming of Aurora and it's available on Webtoon. Please check it out if you have time. I'm currently doing a theory and analysis series for To Be Hero X, so if you like my videos so far, please like and subscribe. It helps my channel out a lot. I'd also like to thank my patrons Robek, Vanarik, and Jvolitska. If you're interested in supporting me, my videos, and webcomic, please check out my Patreon. I post my sketches and work-in-progress shots about my webcomic for my $2 patrons, and my $5 patrons can watch YouTube videos ahead of time along with the full version of certain speed paintings. Now as usual, if you want to talk about the next episode, please make sure to put up the spoiler tag. Thank you! The Dean's power really reminds me of Lucy from Elfenlied, so much so that the opening song of that anime played in my mind the moment I saw him. It seems like in the next episode, we'll find out more about what happened to him. We are shown awards of that guy and that he's featured in some hero magazine. So his dreams of becoming a hero was not just all talk. But due to some circumstances, he wasn't able to. Were his powers natural, or was he one of the people who were experimented on by the Aether Laboratory? We also see Liu Zhen in this episode too. He looks so much older since the last time we saw him. How is it that the Dean barely aged, but Liu Zhen looks like he aged 40 years? We also meet the lady who told Cyan that Luo is dead in her trailer. She works in DOS and scouted Cyan, who was busking on the streets. My bet is that those scenes are flashbacks, and that being scouted is that last push that Cyan needed to leave the orphanage. After all, she's just a 14-year-old during this time. What could she have done if she left the orphanage? She didn't know anyone and Luo is all she has. I wouldn't be surprised if she also meets Queen in this episode, because Queen would be 20 by then and she said that she wanted to be in the top 10 by the time she's 18. Since we're in 34 AC now, this means that we're in the year that Fearman becomes a hero and the Treeman Company will be established. Do you guys think we'll see Fearman again? Or maybe we'll see Queen and Fearman duke it out? The hero tournament should be happening on 35 AC if my calculations are right. Anyways, that's all for now. I hope to see you guys in the next video again. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye!